got to see practice. Are you guys seeing a little bit more than what you anticipated in regards to access to this team? No?
No, this is about usual. First couple days to get some pictures and video before they're in pads. And usually this is the only padded practice that we get to watch. It's the Student Appreciation Day. And, the after the practice, the students mob all the players to get pictures and autographs. And it was really funny. The players were stretching after practice, and then they turned the students loose. So here's Jeremiah Smith over there trying to get his final stretches in, and people are crowded all around him and everything. And then he signed autographs and took pictures for about 5 minutes, and people were standing 15 deep around him. And he had a police officer with him to protect him, just to make sure he didn't get bumped into or anything. And then eventually they just whisked him out of there. So, it's good to be the king, I guess. So, he's the king of Columbus right now.
Yeah, he would. Brian Hartline said he tries to be the bad guy and pull him away at times, and you could see him in the scrum there, like looking like how long do I need to wait before I grab him? But I've compared it on the previous podcasts to watching like the patrons follow Tiger on the 18th hole at the Masters, where they're just running. I would also maybe compare it to like the wedding dress store that opens during a sale, and all of the women just rush in, and that's kind of what it was. Once they let the students go, they surrounded Jeremiah, and then you just got 8 receivers sitting in a circle getting their stretch in, surrounded by hundreds of OSU students.
Yeah, I'm sure it's quite the scene. And when you guys mentioned access, the only reason I said that is it just seemed as though they were putting the clamps on that's what was reported going into this off season, that they were going to put the clamps on the media a little bit more, but it seems like your access is fairly usual. Now I'm also comparing that to what I'm hearing from other media people that we have on here on a regular basis. And it just seems like the restrictions are tightening and tightening and tightening all over the country. That's being reflected by what's being dealt with in the spring games, but even just the spring practices access. And maybe some of these programs should look at Columbus and say, hey, that guy won a national championship and he still allows reasonable media access. It can be done.
And they're playing a game, and it's going to be on Big Ten Network at 12 o'clock on Saturday. So all Ohio State fans should DVR, if you're not going to be at home Saturday, DVR the game, because it should be a lot of fun to watch a lot of the young players who have never really played for Ohio State, including those quarterbacks, Julian Sayin, Lincoln Keenholz, and Tavian St. Clair. They're all going to get their first real big run there at Ohio Stadium. So should be a lot of fun on Saturday at noon to see that. He's not afraid of it, it seems like.
And from what I hear, there are still tickets available. So bring the family, bring the friends, easy drive, free parking, all of that good stuff. Be there. Give the players something to experience, because as they say, the next time they're going to be in there is going to be the Texas game. So it's going to be, they'd like to have the players play in front of as many people as possible now before that Texas game.
So, Steve, since you saw a practice on Saturday, how much did that closely reflect what we may see in a few weeks? And what did you draw from the look?
Well, I think that Lincoln Keenholz came out of the practice on Saturday with a lot of buzz. And again, it should be noted, it's just one day out of 15, but it's a day when the students were there and the media was allowed to attend and gain some insight as to what was going on. And he played pretty well. He moved his unit up and down the field, was very efficient throwing the football, and also threw a perfect 40-yard touchdown pass to Carnell Tate on a fade route and hit him in stride going into the end zone. So those are plays that Ohio State fans got used to seeing, obviously, with Will Howard, Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate this past year. Emeka Egbuka obviously was a big part of that offense as well. Now he's headed to the NFL. But, yeah, I think everyone has assumed from day one that this is Julian Sayin's job to lose, but I think Lincoln Keenholz has kind of throw his helmet into the race as well. And again, people ask, well, when do you think they'll make the announcement? And probably will be about 2 weeks before the Texas game is my guess. And again, I'm not anointing him as the starter based on his play for over a 1 hour stretch of one of the 15 practices, but he looked pretty good to me. So, I'm sure that it balances out over the entire 15 days. And Sayan's had his good moments as well. St. Clair just getting his feet wet at the college level, struggled a little bit at times, was put under some duress at times, and handled it reasonably well. Sayan was rushed one time, really, really good, and threw a ball off his back foot, kind of a real no-no. You never want to throw late off your back foot and just chuck it up for grabs. And lo and behold, Jermaine Matthews made the interception and celebrated like you just won the Super Bowl. So, it was one of those kind of days, I guess. But at any rate, give one check for Lincoln Keenholz on that day, and we'll see. The spring game on Saturday. If Sayan's got a couple aces up his sleeve, that he can make some plays on Saturday.
Yeah, the problem right now in the spring is every day when you talk to somebody who's there, it's like, well, this court today it was Julian, or yesterday it was Lincoln. Like, the problem is the lack of consistency right now. The good news is somebody's usually playing pretty well one day. It's just they need to continue to put it together. And I think what we saw was the 11th spring of practice, so it gives you an idea of how early things still are. And there are 20 some odd fall camp practices as well. But yeah, I would agree with Steve, and I think pretty much everybody. I haven't seen anybody say that they thought Julian had a better day on Saturday, but I know he was better in earlier practices earlier in the week. But that's and there have been times where Julian or where Lincoln has been better, other than just this practice. So they'll keep progressing, and I was impressed with Tavian St. Clair. He was live throughout, I think, all of the practice, and then in terms of just. It was not fair for him, basically, because he was getting pressured. So he was escaping the pressure. He was still looking downfield. He was finding receivers or throwing it away or picking up yards. But then later in the practice, towards the end of the practice, they made all the quarterbacks live, which was interesting. And I don't ever remember seeing a quarterback. One of a starting quarterback being made live like that, other than like JT Barrett and Cardale Jones in a circle drill together. That was about as close as we've ever seen to allowing quarterbacks to be hit. But Ryan Day talked about it on Monday that these guys just haven't played enough, and they haven't been hit, and they haven't been pressured. So this was an opportunity to do it now. Not that you want to see anybody get hurt, but if somebody did, you'd have some time to recover or whatever. Like, you're not looking for anybody to get hurt, but it's not something you do in fall camp, because then you're kind of screwed if something happens. So, there's one like a 4th and goal from the 7 or 8 where Julian Sayan had to take off running, and he kind of tried to dive for the end zone, and he got slammed down and blown up and stopped short. And it's just interesting to watch the quarterbacks be live like that. And because there are so many sacks, defensive ends and linebackers get sacks just by touching a quarterback in practice. And, you're watching, like I saw a crossing route with Mylan Graham where a linebacker just taps him and he's down. Whereas that linebacker was never going to touch him, and he was going to keep running, and he was going to make somebody else miss. And you kind of miss out on things like that. But interesting to see those quarterbacks live and see the speed of the game pick up when the defenders know that I have to really get this guy, and then you're allowing the quarterback to actually operate while playing football instead of not necessarily a 7-on-7 thing, but you kind of feel like you're in a cocoon and you're safe when you're not, when you're live.
Some of the guys that I thought really stood out, Dominic Kirks had a sack of Julian Sayan. He's I guess a redshirt freshman defensive end, I believe. He's wearing number 55. He did pretty well. There was a play on the goal line, 98, Caden McDonald, I think, got into the backfield and upended the runner for a 1-yard loss, probably. That was a heck of a play defensively. there were some pass breakups. I wish I could recall which of the DBs. There was one DB who was, I think, 21. I don't have a roster in front of me. Broke up 2 passes in a row. Was pretty impressive. I thought Bo Jackson at running back ran with great authority and great vision, made some great cuts, and looks great. So I thought Donaldson did some nice things. They threw a swing pass to him, and he made a tackler regret coming into his area, punished him on the business end of it. That was pretty cool to see. Wide receivers, Brandon Ennis made some plays. Mylan Graham, as you illustrated, made a couple of plays. Tony, is 11, is that Porter? 11?
Yeah, Quincy Porter.
Yeah, Quincy Porter made a couple of really nice plays in this scrimmage as well. So all those guys, Max Clare, the new tight end from Purdue, made a couple catches that I saw. So, excuse me, it was a lot of different people over the course of it. I've got a video of 10 plays up on Bucknuts. Again, just really impressed overall with a lot of the things that I saw. I've got an offensive line rotation as well we can get into when the time's right as well.
I'll just say this about Quincy Porter. So he lost his black stripe after the practice. And I asked the coaches about it, asked Brian Hartline about it, and he said, well, I had nothing to do with it. That comes from, other coaches saying stuff and teammates saying stuff and guys on defense saying stuff where, like, they're telling him to get the black stripe off. Like, we need to get this guy's black stripe off. And Ryan Day said he's just been consistent. And all of these things that they're saying are things that they've said about Marvin Harrison and Carnell Tate in the past. It's not fair to compare anybody to Jeremiah Smith. He's a separate entity. If he actually is, whatever kind of entity he is, he's definitely separate from everybody else. But I went back and looked, and I tweeted this out. So that was the 11th practice. That's when Quincy Porter lost his black stripe. So Jeremiah Smith lost his black stripe faster than anybody in Ohio State history, and that goes back all the way to 2012 when Urban Meyer brought it back. So it's not forever, but it's still a pretty good slice of numbers. Jeremiah Smith lost it after 4 practices. Carnell Tate lost it after 5. Marvin Harrison lost it after 9. Chris Olave enrolled in the summer and lost his after 9 practices as well. Then Quincy Porter was 11 practices. Garrett Wilson was 12 practices, and Emeka Ibuka was 13. So you're talking about a bunch of first rounders there and some future first rounders, and he's right in the mix, Quincy Porter.